she can be very calm and collected, and she can also be just like sounds like she's just ripping her heart out of her chest. She can go 0 to 100 so fast.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Grooves of Influence. This week I am joined by guest artist Rosie CQ. Thank you for coming on the show and welcome to Grooves of Influence.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so with every episode, I ask the same question to just get this conversation going. And I know it's a very difficult question. One of probably the hardest for anybody who loves music to answer. And that's, what is the most influential album to you?
Yeah, so this was a very hard question, kind of twofold. I mean, one for like the first reason you said, which is just like as somebody who loves music, when I'm thinking about a single influential album, I'm like, oh, it could be this or this or this. But I also, as much as I love playing music and went to school for music and all of that, I also feel like I am not as avid of a music listener as a lot of my music peers too. And so it was interesting to look at like, okay, with listening to music less than a lot of people do in my shoes, like what is really influential for me. And so I chose The Story by Brandi Carlile. Yeah, do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to talk about it more?
Well, we can both talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of curious on like, when was the first time you heard it? Like, how did you discover it?
Yeah, so it sent me down because so it came out in 2007, and so I would have been like 8 or 9 when that came out. And I guess like just about to turn 9 years old when that album came out. And I didn't hear it until like 2 years after it came out. And the reason that I had even heard of Brandi Carlile, like this was like kind of her first like bigger album to like really start making some waves. And I heard about it because I was in a children's choir in Missoula, Montana called the Coyote Choir. And it was this project that this wonderful woman in Missoula ran. And she was like working with different like science organizations to write like children's music about like science and interacting with nature. I promise this connects. I really promise it does.
No, it's awesome.
And for whatever reason, the way that this woman, her name is Amy Martin, she actually is like a podcast host now and doing really great things. She was able to get like really big names to guest on this album of children's songs. So there was some like for kids, like, do you remember who Bill Harley is? Like the children's musician that was like really big in the early 2000s.
I don't.
That's fine. That's fine. That's that. Like, so he was on it. He was a big deal. But then there was like Annie DeFranco was on it and a couple other people. And Brandi Carlile, she also got to sing on this album. So there is actually a song out there that like 9-year-old Rosie is singing on that also has Brandi Carlile on it. And so I found out of her because of that, just through that process. And she came through Missoula one time, and because she had sang on the song with this children choir, we got to meet her, and so we like went to her show and things like that. And so that's how I found out about her. And then I mean the album itself is great and the songwriting is amazing, but I think there's also just this connection point of maybe that was like the first like bigger singer and songwriter I'd ever come in contact with, and like it felt like tangible, you know, like there was like this extra level of connection of the music is amazing, but also this person's actually real and they're not like just off on some giant stage and I'm never going to reach them. Like I actually met them and interacted with them. And so that was a big piece in why I think it lodged itself so deeply into my life and my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel similar in a sense. I haven't met many artists like that, but when
Me neither.
When I get the chance to like go to a concert and like see somebody live, I feel like it just totally changes my perception,
Yeah.
at least as just a music lover. of the artist, and like it gives me a deeper connection definitely to albums that they perform. Like you might have enjoyed the album before, but then you go to a show and you're like, I love this album now. You
Yeah.
know, I definitely can relate in that sense. So are you from Montana then originally?
Yeah, I'm from Missoula originally, and then I've been in Spokane a little over 5 years now.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. So you were making the science songs then?
I was making when I was a child,
Yeah.
yes. So yeah, I was and that was like a really big introduction into music for me. I had been playing guitar and stuff before that as a younger kid. But I just enjoyed singing, and that was a group that, again, it sounds very niche and specific, and in a way it was, but also um Missoula, Montana is totally the kind of community that would love to see a children's choir about science at like every single event. And so we performed like a ton for those couple years I was in it. And like my first concert that I went to actually was Annie DeFranco. And because she was so nice and awesome, she let the children's choir open for her at the concert. So
That's
so
awesome.
the first concert I went to, I opened for as like a, again, like a 10-year-old child. Um but yeah, so anyway, that was a big thing for me growing up, that
So
choir.
so you've been performing for a long time then.
I have been performing for a long time, but I also feel very lucky in the way that I've been performing, where I don't know, I feel like some people talk about performing as a kid and having it be really stressful experiences or kind of recital type experiences. And I was really lucky to be doing a lot of like group performance. And at the root of it, it was always just meant to be fun and connect, just connecting with other kids and other people. So I got exposed to performance in a way that felt really not stressful and definitely laid a good foundation for my relationship with being on stage. Yeah.
Yeah, how has that transformed over the years?
I would say, let's see. I mean, I went through a bunch of different phases of the ways that I was performing in, because I mean, when I was a kid, I was doing like these children's choirs or, things in like local plays or things like that. And then as I got into middle school and high school, I got super into percussion and being in band, and so then it started to be more of the like solo and ensemble stuff, and getting more introduced to like the classical world and the wind ensemble world. And so, um, yeah, it was much more about like I mean, through instrumental music, you can, of course, emote and bring a level of connection to the audience. But I was really learning how to I was playing these very technical pieces. And so I was really learning how to deal with the pressure of like, I'm trying to find the right words to say it. It wasn't so much about the connection with the audience, and it was more about like bringing the richness of the music to life to its full potential without letting like the stress get to you. And then I'd always been singing and songwriting throughout all this time just for fun. But when I started to do it in college and like actually share the words that I had written, and you're using your voice and not just your instrument, that was when I those were the times where I was like, oh, this is like truly so much fun. Like I always liked playing my instrument for people, but um having the experience to like get to share your words and get to just talk between pieces and have the story elements of it was so exciting and fun to me. And so that's the kind of performing I do most now, is like singer-songwriter type of work. I still do instrumental percussion and classical percussion stuff as well, but it's not as deeply joyful for me as the other stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, and it makes sense with the album you chose. I think this album particularly really expresses that. Like it's truly very raw and emotional with her lyrics. But to me, hearing the album, I really thought that instrumentally, it's pretty clean. Like I know some people like will consider it raw. It's just my take. I thought it was pretty clean. And I
Mm-mm.
was like, it's kind of interesting hearing you kind of explain your musical history. It's like almost a merge of both, you know, where you have the rawness vocally, but still instrumentally, it's still, you know, on it. You know, there's not,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And like something that like I do in my own music and that is very inspired by like albums like this is that I have spent so much time just focusing on my instrument and not songwriting and not my voice that it's like that is a part of me I can't take out. Like the the music by itself has to be good. Like it can't like that can't we can't put that on the back burner. Like I have had to teach myself that the words are more important, especially as a performer. Like if you have words and an instrument, you do have to focus like at least 5% more on the words because that's what's going to draw people in and that's what people are going to connect with the most because we are talking and communicating right now. That's what we do every day. But playing my instrument well is so important and so I'm definitely drawn to bands who don't need to show off how good they are at their instruments necessarily, but are like when you really take a look at their playing and the way they interact with their instruments and the parts they make, you're like, oh yeah, they know what they're doing.
Is there like a song you've written that you can think of where you really like realize this process for you?
Like that the music like is just as important as the
Hmm.
words. I think I kind of just see it through the trajectory of my songwriting. If I can think of a specific song, I will. But um, so I released an album back in like 2021, a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. I guess it's not that long ago. I don't know what time is anymore. But um, so on that, there's a song called Fly. And if you listen to it, the vibraphone part, which I haven't even said the instrument I play mostly for my singer-songwriter stuff, it's vibraphone. It's like a xylophone, but it's not a xylophone. Um,
What's the difference?
the difference, thank you so much for giving me this platform to talk about it. This is very near and dear to my heart. Vibraphone is metal and it has a pedal so that you can control the sustain, similar to a piano. So you can get short notes and long notes. With a xylophone or a marimba, those are both wood barred or synthetic barred instruments, just depends on the kind you get. And xylophones are like the really chirpy, high pitched ones, and they're quite a bit smaller. And marimbas are like the really big ones. This is actually a marimba behind me. It's got a cover on it right now, but it's like 6, 7 feet long. So
Yeah, they're huge.
yeah, they're huge. And then vibraphones, I mean, are still pretty big. They're like 5 feet long at least. So big
That's an
instruments.
interesting instrument to be a singer-songwriter with. It's not like you can just grab your guitar, you know, and take it with you and go to a cafe.
Yeah, oh, you're telling me. Yeah, no, I am very aware of that fact. But anyway, side tangent done. We can talk more about my instrument however much you want. But there's this song called Fly on that album that I released. And the vibraphone part is like crazy. Like I really don't play that song anymore because the vibraphone part mixed with the vocals, like especially for my vocal ability at the time, that song was like way too hard for me to be playing. Like even at the time I recorded it, like to truly sound really, really clean and posh, it was way too hard. And so, what I slowly learned, and it's taken me a while, is that in order to like really showcase how comfortable I am on my instrument and to really use like my instrumental abilities to the best of my ability, I actually have to like water down the parts like underneath what I can truly play, because then I'm in that actual comfortable zone. And I was so used to, like, I went to music school and I got a percussion performance degree. So I was always playing this literature that was like right at the threshold of what I couldn't do, because that's just what you're supposed to do when you're in music schools. It's like, let's push, make it as hard as possible, always trying to grow like how fast you can play, how much you can play. And through songs like Fly, I realized, oh, I really care about the music portion, the instrumental portion, which is why I'm making these parts so dense. And I'm not really able to give a beautiful performance of it because I'm constantly operating in like that top tier of what I can play. And that's just not sustainable for like like an hour gig, let alone like a 2 hour, 3 hour gig when you're doing coffee shop gigs and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So that piece was like, as I played it and I got a little bit better at it, it really made me realize, if I really care about the music and the words and delivering a performance that's enjoyable for people, I need to balance things and play in a zone that is comfortable and not be worried about like showing off how much I can do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, definitely probably something you have to learn as you perform or as you continue to grow as an artist. It's like it's something that I imagine happens naturally,
Yeah.
and did
And
with you.
yeah, and it's like, in the moment you don't think it's an ego thing, but then like 2 years later you're like, "Oh, I just wanted I just wanted to show people how fast I could play." And people don't actually really care about that. So you live and you
Yeah,
learn.
it's the world of like classical music. I feel like it's so about being impressive. I love classical music, don't get me wrong, it's
Yeah.
beautiful, but it's just a different mindset than stuff like this where it's so much more focused on the emotion and how you're going to deliver that versus just pure like almost scientific, like science level precision, like it feels like, which I feel like kind of leans towards more classical music.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely classical music that doesn't have that. And generally I think that's the stuff that really like sticks with people, especially people that aren't like super deep into the classical world. It's like when somebody has all this technical ability and they're willing to just like play one simple beautiful line, it's like, wow, they're putting all of this knowledge and effort and time into just like this handful of notes, which can be so magical, but it's easy to get caught up in all the extra stuff.
For sure. I mean, I'm kind of curious, how did you end up going with the vibe, playing the vibes? Like, I'm like, how did you go down that path? Because that's not a super common instrument to be playing.
No, definitely not. So like I mentioned, I got just really into like my band program in middle school and high school. So I just started playing percussion in my fifth grade band. And so you're doing the snare drum and the glockenspiel and the bass drum. And I just thought it was so fun to just be able to switch around, do so many different things. I'm very addicted to like learning new, very hands-on things. So percussion was perfect for me because it's like, okay, you've learned how to play the triangle, now go learn how to play the tambourine. And so I just got really into it, and especially because I had some guitar background and some singing background, I was really drawn to all the mallet instruments like marimba and vibraphone and xylophone, just because there was that melodic quality to it. Um, and so, yeah, so I just kept going. I started taking some private lessons. And when you start getting into mallet instruments, they're like the next level above just being able to read everything and play with two mallets is to play with four mallets. So you have two in each hand. Um, and that just, I think, was like the ultimate challenge for my brain, and like just seemed so cool. Like I was just so obsessed with it. Um, so I did mostly like marimba stuff in high school and like marimba solos, and a lot in college. Um, And I was just always part of a jazz band program too, in high school and in college. And vibraphone is like primarily considered like most of the people who know what my instrument is when they see me out start talking to me about jazz vibraphone players like Lionel Hampton and Milt Jackson, and they want to know if I was influenced by them. And yes, in part, but mostly what I found is I just love the sound of the vibraphone over all of the other mallet instruments. And when I started combining singing and mallet playing, I started it with my voice and marimba. And I would sometimes get frustrated by the limitation of like you just hit a marimba and you only get one length of note. Like you can roll on a note, but you don't have like true sustain. And I was used to playing and singing with a guitar where you can get a lot more lengths and timbres of notes. And so when I started trying it on vibraphone, like I mentioned, it has a pedal, so you have a lot more control over the different sounds you can get. It just felt like it made so much sense to me. Um, and I was like, this I'm able to get what I want. I have so much more ability on the vibraphone than I do on the guitar at this point because I've spent so many more hours on it. Um, so even though it seems like a very weird path and unnatural pairing, it felt very natural for the time of my life I was in and all the things I was doing.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I've got a chance to hear some of your music, and it's really cool. It's unique. You know, you don't typically hear your style of music for singing. Like it's a cool combo. Um, but kind of switching gears, going back to the album, I'm curious, was there any songs that stood out or have like stood the test of time for you, you know, that you
Yeah.
keep going back to?
Well, part of the reason that I chose this album was anytime I put it on, which is not super duper often, like because I listened to it so much as a kid, is that I couldn't, if you just asked me to start singing one of the songs right now, I couldn't super easily. But the second I hear it, I can sing pretty much every word on that album. And so there's something about just the whole arc and the way that album is laid out that is, I just feel like it feels like one big memorable song to me. Um, but let me pull up the track list. I meant to do this before we started. But
Good. I'm also curious as you're doing that,
yeah.
being a vocalist, you know,
Hmm.
what stands out to you about her vocals throughout the album?
Well, I genuinely think Brandi Carlile has like one of the most amazing voices. And I think she has just such a range. She can be very calm and collected, and she can also be just like sounds like she's just ripping her heart out of her chest. She
Hmm.
can go 0 to 100 so fast. She also, I know, because I've listened to lots of interviews and read some of her stories and things like that. She has like a country yodeling background. And I think singers that are able to have that vocal flip in there where they're kind of like just the like that yodel flip is and incorporate it into whatever kind of music they're doing, it feels otherworldly to me, and I think I will constantly be chasing it in my own voice. um but yeah, so I think if I had to choose one detail, that would be it. Is just the way that she is able to switch between the registers in her voice, and she doesn't try to hide it. It's like she almost showcases, like, here's the rough part of my voice, and I'm going to use that as like a beautiful texture instead of something I need to try to cover up that I have like a natural break in my voice. Um, yeah, I love that. I think her voice is amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that yodeling thing, I had to do some research because I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is that? Like what is she doing?" I was thinking almost of as like a fall. I was like it almost seems like she's falling. Like I don't know what she's doing because it's not like really a run, but yeah, it's a yodeling thing. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's crazy."
No, it's so cool. And
Yeah.
again, like that's just a perfect example too of like not only are the instruments so good and clean on that, but it just people who can do things like that, it's like they really understand their voice as an instrument. And I think that is so cool cuz I mean I love singing and I think I've gotten much better at it over the years, but it definitely like does not feel like my most comfortable instrument. And so the people who sing where you're like, wow, they can just make their voice, they can think about what they want and make it do whatever they want. I just could listen to them all day
It's
long.
so funny you said her voice as an instrument. I literally wrote that down in my notes listening to the album specifically because I was like, it almost feels like the music around it's kind of like a soundscape for her to vocally like dance around. In a lot of the
Yes.
songs, it's like she's just kind of doing, kind of swimming. Even like lyrically, structurally, some of the songs are kind of interesting, not super like pop structure, you know?
Yeah.
She kind of explores song structures too. But
Yeah.
did you figure out any of the songs that kind of stand out to you?
Yes. So I think the song, I mean, obviously the story is I mean, it's just a great song. And that's like the very generic one to say from the album. I also love My Song. That one has like a similar rise and fall as the story, but it's like the slightly toned down version. But there's some really beautiful builds in that song. Um, I love that. I also love the song Have You Ever? It's kind of more just like a simple, um, it's just kind of like a strophic song. So there's not really a chorus or anything, just the like refrain in it. But it's just so simple and sweet. And like you were saying, like not all of the songs have the same format. Like they really differ in the way they're structured. And I think that was something I loved too, is that it's like you don't get partway through the album and you're not like, oh, okay, I know how these songs work. Every one is gonna be different and unique. Um, so
Each
yeah,
song has its own story, its own trajectory. Is that something that you try to incorporate when you're making music? And I'm thinking, like, in my head, as I'm asking you this, like, classical music is so much of that. Like, it's so much, a journey through these different, like, I feel like every time I listen to it, it's like a journey, right? So, is that kind of how you try to incorporate in your music, or what's your thought process around that?
yeah. I mean, I think that because I have a classical music background, it's just a little bit naturally baked into how I write songs or how I hear like an idea for music is that it shouldn't just necessarily stay put and that it should go somewhere. I'm trying to get a little bit better over the last few years about letting a song just like stay in a feeling because or like kind of one spot and just like circle that spot instead because I think it's also really powerful when you can again just like there's all these options and choosing to use only a couple of those options is sometimes more powerful than saying like let's go every single direction we possibly can. um but yeah, I definitely think about songs kind of having their own realm of whether it's sonically or story wise. And one thing I've struggled with just like in the world of like releasing music and the way that's kind of the standard way to release music into the world right now is like how do you get people excited or interested when everything is really different, but I also don't want to keep everything super the same. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but it's something I think about a lot in this realm of, do you let your music go wherever, or do you try to find a atmosphere to stay in?
Yeah, kind of like building your brand, right? You like, do you build your brand and make it cohesive? But as an artist,
Yeah.
you're saying it's kind of hard to express that because it's like sometimes you just have a song that's different.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes I just don't sometimes I it just feels exhausting to be cohesive, you know? And it's just like I just as a person, it's like I love, dressing up super cute and girly, and then I also like am a power lifter and like to go just like lift as much weight as possible and be like sweaty and disgusting, and I would like and that's just like a tiny, teeny example of where it's like, yeah, I occupy really different realms in my day to day life. And my creativity feels like so much a part of my life that trying to put it into one sound avenue feels very silly sometimes. But sometimes I feel like that's what I should do. But
Yeah.
also, who cares? So I don't know.
It's hard. Yeah, being an artist, I mean, having these conversations, it's not easy, trying to figure out your path. And I mean, it's kind of funny you're saying that this like juxtaposition of two objects, and it's like that's what you do though. That's your whole thing, like
Yeah,
playing vibes and singing like almost like a pop friendly type of music. To me, is like truly the juxtaposition of that. And it's like you just
that's
embrace
true.
that. It's kind of cool. It's just who you are.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
But it has been absolutely awesome having you on, Rosie. Thank you for sharing, your insight, your stories with us about being an artist. If some of the listeners want to check out your music, where do you suggest they start? How can we hear you?
Yes. So I have recently gone on a bit of a, speaking of branding, a bit of a rebrand. So on all streaming platforms, you can find me under Rosie CQ. Um, I don't have much released under that name right now, but there will be more in the coming months. So go ahead and follow me on any of the places there. You can also follow me at rosie.cq on Instagram. And I also have rosiecq.com for other updates.
Just be sure to check that out. We are excited to see where you go, what you make, and we'll definitely be following you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate every one of you. Make sure if you enjoyed the conversation to rate the show and follow us to stay up to date for more conversations like this. Every follow and listen helps us have more conversations with more artists. We'll see you next time.